Good evening and welcome to this public forum with the candidates for the Morton County Commission. I am Anessa Pfeiffer-Johnson with the League of Women Voters and I will be your moderator. This candidate forum has been organized by the League of Women Voters of Bismarck-Mandan and is co-sponsored by the Bismarck Tribune and Dakota Media Access. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that promotes the informed participation of all citizens in their government. The League does not endorse nor oppose candidates or political parties. There are 6 candidates running for election for the 3 open seats on the Morton County Commission, and 3 candidates have joined us here tonight. They are Sue Bartholomew, Velcome, Clint Phelan, and Scott Johnson, and Bruce Strinden. The audience is invited to submit questions using the index cards provided to you. Viewers at home can phone in questions by calling 667-3237 between now and 6:45 p.m. tonight only, Wednesday, October 3rd. That number again is 667-3237. This is intended to be a respectful exchange of ideas. Our purpose this evening is to provide voters with information about the candidates and their positions on issues that affect the people of Morton County. Now let's meet our candidates. I will read a short bio of each candidate, and after your bio is read, you will have 1 minute to tell us why you wish to seek election to the Morton County Commission. Scott Johnson has lived in Morton County for the last 6 years and presently works as an investment and insurance broker, a developer of rental property, and as a producer of registered Angus cattle. A graduate of Bismarck State College, he received degrees in social and behavioral sciences and business sciences from the University of Mary. Mr. Johnson is a former Burleigh County Commissioner. In addition, he is a past commander of the Coast Guard Auxiliary and a past board member of the Abused Adult Resource Center. He has experienced working with the Bismarck-Mandan Development Association, is an alumni of the Bismarck-Mandan Leadership Group, and has volunteered with both Boy Scouts and 4-H. Mr. Johnson is also a current member of the Mandan Progress Association. He is married with 4 children. Mr. Johnson, you have a minute to tell us why you are running for office.
Okay, thank you. Being a 5th-generation Morton County resident, I really enjoy helping people. I've got a vast experience in road maintenance, previous county experience in social services and helping the elderly. And I feel that it's time to add more community service. I think that the people of Morton County are great, and I just want to participate in moving forward and making a better place for my children to live for many generations to come.
Thank you. Bruce Strinden has lived in Morton County for the past 23 years. He has attended Concordia College in Moorhead, Minnesota, and Valley City State University. He is currently an account executive at Newman Signs and a part-time rancher. Mr. Strinden is a board member and past president of the Mandan Progress Organization and represents that group on the Mandan Renaissance Zone Committee. He is past chair and current board member of the Mandan Rodeo Days Committee, past president and honorary board member of the Dakota Zoo, and a trustee of the North Dakota Cowboy Hall of Fame. He holds memberships in the Bismarck-Mandan Development Association, the North Dakota Stockmen's Association, the American Hereford Association, and the American Quarter Horse Association. Mr. Strinden has served 1 4-year term on the Morton County Commission and for the last 2 years has been its chair. He is married with 2 children and 6 grandchildren. Mr. Strinden.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for providing this opportunity for us. It is truly a valuable service to the community and to the voters, and truly I appreciate it, and I believe the voters do as well. I was first elected to the Morton County Commission in the midst of a declared snow disaster. The 2 years following that were also declared snow disasters, followed by a flood on the Missouri River that lasted 4 months. I think it's safe to say that my first term on the Morton County Commission was very challenging, but I can also share with you that serving as a Morton County Commissioner has been one of the most gratifying things that I have ever done. And I thank the citizens for the opportunity and look forward to serving another term.
Thank you. Sue Bartholomew Velcome has lived in Morton County for 25 years. She is Marketing and Outreach Coordinator for FARMS, the Foundation for Agriculture and Rural Resource Management and Sustainability. In addition, she teaches photojournalism at BSC, where she is an adjunct professor of mass communications. Previously, she served from 2001 to 2008 as editor of the Mandan News, worked as a local foods marketing specialist for the North Dakota Department of Agriculture, and owned her own business. Sue weaves, specializing in fiber arts. Within the community, Mrs. Velcome sits on the board of directors for Dakota Media Access and on the advisory board of Bismarck State College's Mass Communications Department. She is also a project chair for the Tri-County Tourism Alliance Cookbook Project. A 26-year member of Charity Lutheran Church, Bismarck, Ms. Velcome is married to J.C. Velcome, who works for the North Dakota Association of Rural Electric Cooperatives. They have 4 children, 3 grandchildren, and a cat. Ms. Velcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity tonight. I appreciate all the hard work that went into this forum. As the newspaper editor over here in Morton County, I spent a lot of time at city and county and park board meetings and became very interested in how government works. I feel like Morton County is my home, and I really want to see, as the future of this county develops, to be a part of it, guiding it along, I guess, could you say, to make it a great place for people to live. I appreciate the relationships that I've developed by being a part of this community for so many years as the editor of the paper, and I now have the flexibility and the opportunity to serve, and I kind of feel that it's my turn, so here I am.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to the questions developed by members of the League of Women Voters, the Bismarck Tribune, our audience here tonight, and our viewers at home. To submit a question, please use the index cards provided on your chairs, and viewers at home can phone in questions by calling 667-3237 between now and 6:45 p.m. tonight only, Wednesday, October 3rd. That number again is 667-3237. Candidates have not been given advance copies of these questions, and each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond to each question. Please comply with our time restrictions so we can get to as many questions as possible tonight. Our timer will let you know when you are down to 30 seconds, then 10 seconds, and then stop. First question, and you will all have the opportunity to answer it. First question, what should the Morton County Commission do to help its smaller communities meet the challenges of job creation and economic development? Mr. Johnson.
Well, I think, hiring a planner was a great step. And I think you need to have guidance in planning as far as orderly development even in their communities. We have a vast array of people coming into our state and our county and all these small towns that are virtually a lot of unknowns. So I think we have to also work with the law enforcement to make these people safe. I think approving tax incentives, if you're not outstretching what the cost of your law enforcement and your road department is going to be, so if you're not overtaxing already your fixed structure, that you should be able to allow those in with some tax incentives, and hopefully they're going to bring back more than they've been given in tax incentives and breaks, and also make it a lot more convenient for the residents to do their shopping and business locally.
Thank you. Mr. Strinden, what should the Morton County Commission do to help its smaller communities meet the challenges of job creation and economic development?
One of the things that we currently do is to levy a tax, an economic development tax, which is levied not countywide, but just in the rural areas of the county. And we use that tax to provide money to the BMDA to assist our smaller communities. And we have done this, I think, very successfully over the last 4 years. BMDA has provided a valuable service to the small communities, and very often there is a gap in the knowledge that the smaller communities and their officials have when it comes to working in the various areas of economic development. BMDA fills that gap very nicely, and we feel that the money that we spend there is the best money that could be spent for economic development, particularly in the rural areas of the county.
Thank you. Ms. Velcome. What should the Morton County Commission do to help its smaller communities meet the challenges of job creation and economic development?
Well, I absolutely agree with Mr. Strinden on the work that the BMDA does with the smaller communities, and I believe that we should be there totally in support of these communities in building up their main streets, because now is a good time to do it. We're all experiencing growth. What I'd like to see is support for younger families in good schools and housing so that they can come and perhaps start businesses here, you know, with the internet and all of those kinds of jobs that you can do from home. It would be really great to see that kind of economic growth in these small communities. And the people I work with my other job, there are young families that wish to come back to North Dakota. We should fully support that. Tax incentives, ordinances, whatever we need to do to bring them back here and build up those small communities.
Thank you. Mr. Strinden, you get the first question, this next question. Tensions between urban and rural interests in the county often play out in county planning and zoning meetings. How much control should the county apply on residential growth in non-incorporated areas in the county?
As Mr. Johnson mentioned earlier, we hired a new planner he started in July. And we did that in the interest of just the question that you asked. We felt that we needed to have a much better handle on planning, that we needed to have a better coordination between our comprehensive land use plan and also our planning and zoning ordinances. One of the things that happens when you have residential development colliding with agriculture is that it very often can cause problems. So I think one of the most important things we can do is to establish ordinances that are going to, as time goes on, to minimize the problems that can be caused there, and also be very careful regarding development out in the rural part of the county in terms of where it goes and the road access that is provided.
Thank you. Ms. Velcome, would you like me to read the question? Tensions between urban and rural interests in the county often play out in county planning and zoning meetings. How much control should the county apply on residential growth in non-incorporated areas in our county?
I've witnessed firsthand some of the conflicts that occur between the urban and rural areas at planning and zoning meetings, and I think that hiring the planner was probably the best thing that they could do, because part of the problem is the confusion with land use in certain zoning areas, and having somebody who can even explain the differences in the zoning in the county and then kind of guide that orderly growth is very, very critical, because as we are growing so rapidly, we need to really be prepared to make sure that it is orderly growth, so that you don't have people in conflict with each other, but so that we can all get along better together. I like agriculture, I like to see land in ag, but I also like to have a house to live in, so I can understand both sides of the story.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, tensions between urban and rural interests in the county often play out in county planning and zoning meetings. How much control should the county apply on residential growth in non-incorporated areas?
Well, you really need to listen to the people. The people living in the county are living there because it's a way of life. It's been tradition and culture that they've been trying to preserve for many generations. A county commission can only enforce the policies and laws that are written now, and I think with the planning, you're going to have some guidance, but I think the most important thing is to listen to the people and their needs and wishes.
Thank you. Ms. Velcome, you're first on this next question. Burleigh County also feels indirect pressure on its services from the oil boom, to the point county commissioners there are talking about adding a county sales tax. Should Morton County look at a county sales tax?
Boy, that's a tough question, one that I haven't heard before over here. They haven't been talking about it to my knowledge, and I've been attending most of the meetings. I think it would largely depend on, do we really need it? Is there some other way that we could do this? part of the problem about sales tax is that sometimes you're taxing a segment of the public that needs groceries and gas and maybe doesn't have a lot of disposable income. And so I think that that should be something that we carefully consider, and maybe if we can avoid it, probably avoid it.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, Burley County also feels indirect pressure on its services from the oil boom, to the point that county commissioners there are talking about adding a county sales tax. Should Morton County look at a county sales tax?
I don't believe so. I think if you're wise in managing the funds that you have, with the growth comes additional taxes already. To add another tax to grow government and create other necessities and that you have to keep feeding after this is over, I think you don't need to tax to grow government, so I would say no.
Thank you. Mr. Strinden, should Morton County look at a county sales tax?
I certainly think that Morton County could look at a county sales tax, but the main issue there is that counties, unless they have adopted a home rule charter, are not allowed to levy sales taxes. And I know that's what Burley County is considering doing right now, but it does, there's a process required there in order to levy those taxes. I think I probably am in agreement with Mr. Johnson that I think there are other ways to fund the things that we're going to need to fund as we move on. And I think we're particularly probably talking about the need for additional space in our detention center. And as we move now into later this month and the following months, we're going to be having meetings here in Morton County with our jail advisory committee and also in concert with Burley County to discuss how we might address this problem most efficiently.
Thank you. The next question begins with Mr. Johnson. Morton County, during the very wet spring and summer of 2011, saw much road and bridge damage, as well as water damage to residential structures and parks. What lessons should the county take from its response to the flooding?
Well, being a flood victim and out of my home for 9 months, I guess I'm somewhat qualified in flood fighting. I think the lessons is just to move forward now, is keep a plan and a master plan of everybody that you work with to get things done in an expedient way. And I suppose probably keep a little extra reserve in the accounts for the broken bridges and the washboarded roads, and some things completely vanished. And not only those problems, I think people have also seen a huge amount of weeds and weed control, which has to go with the county weed board and weed manager too, that came from this flood. So I think having a reserve fund for those emergencies, similar to the county does for the snow removal, would be very beneficial.
Thank you. Mr. Strinden, what lessons should the county take from its response to the flooding of 2011?
Is this a 60-second question, or do I have an hour on this one? We learned a lot. Obviously, no one thought the Missouri River was going to flood for 4 months, and certainly both the individuals on either side of me had homes that were flooded, and they were out of their homes, and as were a lot of other residents. The plans that we are putting into place right now are based on our experience and the water levels as they came up. So in the future, we're going to know where we're going to have to react and be able to get there a lot more quickly to assist residents if we have another event, which more likely would take the form of an ice jam. We do currently have an emergency levy in Morton County. It is a 2 mil levy, and we will continue to levy that until up to 5 years we can build up that fund, and then we have to remove it by state law.
Thank you. Ms. Velcome, what lessons should Morton County take from its response to the flooding of 2011?
Well, to always expect the unexpected, because living where we do, we never expected it to flood in the first place. And I'm very happy to hear that they're actually taking a look at it at a county level to be prepared for an event like this in the future. Hopefully, we will never see this again. And I think perhaps that just the Boy Scout motto, be prepared, because you just never know when something like this will happen. Now, I'm hoping that we saved enough money on snow removal this past winter to actually get that fund started, because we have had such a dry year after this wet one. But we too have experienced lots of weeds. We have a road where we could have probably almost taken a boat in here today. So we need to take a look at how we can make sure that we're ahead of the game next time. So thank you for that, Bruce.
Thank you. Mr. Strinden, you're first. Once again, there's discussion of a regional jail facility serving Burleigh County, Bismarck, Mandan, and Morton County. There will be an advisory vote in Morton County on the jail issue as part of the general election. Do you support the joint financing, construction, and operation of a regional jail?
I don't know that I'd go on record as necessarily specifically supporting that at this point in time. I think what I would tell you is that what I plan to support is the thing that is going to make the most financial sense, not only for Morton County, but I think also for Burleigh County. They're our neighbors. We work well together with them, and so I feel that we have to look at what is going to be the most economical for us. When you have a study done on something like detention, the one thing that you have to remember is that those doing the study are in the business of building and consulting on the building of jails. And I think sometimes you have to take some of the numbers that they give you with a grain of salt. And but I think as time goes on and we're able to have meetings between Burleigh and Morton County on this, that we will come up with, I think, a very good solution and something that's going to be economical for the taxpayers.
Thank you. Ms. Velcome, there will be an advisory vote in Morton County on the jail issue as part of the general election. Do you support the joint financing, construction, and operation of a regional jail?
I might have until I attended the last county commission meeting where Commissioner Zachmeyer brought up some very good points about whether or not the people in this county would want to have a jail facility in conjunction with Burleigh County. And so we have to take a careful look at that. It actually sounds like we could save some money by expanding our current law enforcement center. And like Bruce said, you know, the numbers show a growth and a need for this. And Sheriff Shipman has said it's a need that's critical and needs to be filled immediately. However, should it be that in 10 years, things don't go the way the consultants say they do, and once the oil boom has kind of like hit its peak and kind of leveled off, perhaps we could manage to use the current jail with an expansion, and that would be sufficient for Morton County. I'm very, very happy. In fact, I was thinking in the back of my head, we should really hear what the people want to say, because we want the residents in this county to feel safe, and it's up to them to help us decide what to do about the new jail.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, do you support the joint financing, construction, and operation of a regional jail?
No. I think, you know, the study goes forward 25 years in advance, and I think we need to be a lot more creative in our ways of incarcerating our people. When you're looking at those costs, you're looking at $150,000 per cell, which is the average cost of a home in our community. I think to give people a $150,000 cell, free room and board, and medical attention is beyond comprehension. I think that we can have electronic surveillance and other ways to do these. And the bulk of these people that are coming in and doing are filling up our jails are from all out of state. I think, you know, once the cold weather gets and the oil settles down, a lot of the ones that are getting arrested are either going to be moved on, or maybe we'll develop a plan to buy them plane tickets and have them leave the county. I think spending all that money is a bit much at this time.
Thank you. Let us remind our viewers at home tonight, Wednesday, October 3rd, that you can call in your questions. Please call 667-3237 on Wednesday, October 3rd between now and 6:45. Thank you. On to the next question. Ms. Bartholomew, or Ms. Velcome, you're first. The county has been sharing I lost it. Where are we at? Oh, the county has been sharing expenses with Burleigh County to maintain a county superintendent of schools. This fall, Burleigh County reduced its funding for the office. What should the county and the small school school districts do about the county superintendent issue?
Boy, those small schools are so important to those small communities. And while I don't necessarily know why Burley County made the decision to do what they did, I'm hoping that we'll support that position over here in Morton County. I've been to a couple of those small schools, and they're kind of like a thing of the past, but I'd like to see them around as long as possible. There are some great things that come out of those very small classrooms with those very intimate relationships. And I know there's a lot of parents out there that work very, very hard to keep their kids out in some of those rural schools. So I hope we can take a careful look at that, and maybe the superintendent would be willing to do this on a half-time basis or job share or something that we could work out to keep those schools in that position in Morton County.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, our county has been sharing expenses with Burley County to maintain a county superintendent of schools. This fall, Burley County reduced its funding for the office. What should the county and small school districts do about the county superintendent issue here in Morton?
Well, I think you look at the dollar cost per student and the $90,000 salary plus office, it probably is getting a little bit cost prohibitive for those. I guess I would look at some very qualified people in the man-end community like Dr. Bitts and their staff that maybe would sub out some of that guidance and save a lot of money by keeping it still local.
Mr. Strinden, what should the county and small school districts do about the county superintendent issue here in Morton County?
I guess I can speak to you about what we're currently doing, and that is that we have a proposal before us as to what it would cost us to maintain the position on a part-time basis for Morton County. And at least in the near term, that's what the commission is planning on doing. The agreement that we have with Burley County, the agreement is that we are going to terminate that joint agreement on July 1 of 2013. And after that point, Burley County will be going on their own, and Morton County will be going, at least for the duration of 2013, to a part-time position. Anything we do beyond that is going to have to be approved, number one, by the local school boards that are affected, and any plan we put into place beyond that will have to be approved also by the Department of Public Instruction.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, you're first on this next question. The Burley County Commission also voted to eliminate its funding of the Bismarck-Mandan Development Association. The Morton County Commission historically has helped fund BMDA and voted this fall to fund BMDA again in 2013. Is this a wise use of taxpayer dollars?
You know, I haven't seen firsthand a lot of work that they have done in Morton County. I know they've got a great, hardworking, and dedicated staff that's been there many, many years. I think with this growth, everybody can point fingers and say it's coming naturally or not. But I do know that those gentlemen have followed through with a lot of new businesses in the area. So it's easy to point fingers and say cut this and cut that. But right now, I guess my opinion would be that they've been worth the money.
Thank you. Mr. Strinden, is this wise use of the taxpayers' dollars?
I think in general the commission, the current commission anyway, feels that this is a very wise use of the dollars that we allocate for this. Our communities of New Salem, Glen Ellen, Almont, Hebron, and Flasher are all very nice little communities, particularly the communities that are bordering on the interstate. We are in a little bit different situation in Morton County than what they are in Burley County. We have more communities that I would call viable for some potential economic development. And I think having said that, it's very important that we continue to provide funding to those smaller communities and the expertise that BMDA brings to that issue. And I think that at this point in time, we've been able to see some very positive results from what BMDA has been doing.
Thank you. Ms. Velcome, the Morton County Commission historically has helped fund the Bismarck-Mandan Development Association and voted to this fall to fund it again. Is this wise use of the taxpayers' dollars?
Well, if they're not so busy on the other side of the river, I'm thinking we're gonna get great service from them after this all pans out here. So these, starting a business is not a very easy thing. I've had a business of my own, you know, and a lot of people get into business and they're all excited about it and then, you know, falls apart because they just aren't prepared. So I think that this is one way that we can help those smaller communities. I've been to several of them, been to several city commission meetings, and you've got all these people out there and they're so dedicated to these small communities and they're so excited about the potential growth that we could experience in the next 5 or 10 years. And so why not help them out? I'm fully in support of BMDA.
Thank you. Mr. Strinden. MDU Resources has said it will build a new natural gas-fired power plant next to its Heskett station. Is Morton County capable and prepared to oversee this kind of industrial development, including the environmental issues and necessary pipelines?
I believe that we are in concert with the state health department and the other state agencies that also get involved in these type of projects. And we do have some environmental people with Custer District Health, and they'll fall back also on the state. So with these type of projects, very often we will get the state and their expertise quite heavily involved. And I would expect in terms of the pipeline, the state, the federal, and also the county, all three agencies would ultimately be involved in any kind of a pipeline project.
Thank you. Ms. Velcome. MDU Resources has said it will build a new natural gas-fired power plant next to its Heskett station. Is Morton County capable and prepared to oversee this kind of industrial development, including the environmental issues and necessary pipelines?
Well, I would have to agree with Mr. Strinden over here, because that is a huge project. It involves a lot of entities, and there'll be a lot of people watching us. I would only hope that we would perhaps take a look at all that traffic on that highway going north, which is a very busy place, and adding yet another industry out there, or you know, more traffic just even to build that plant out there, that might fall more on Morton County's responsibility than actually overseeing some of the environmental issues, which I believe the federal government and the state entities are pretty capable of handling. So if we can all work together on this, I think it'll be a good thing.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson. Is Morton County capable and prepared to oversee this kind of industrial development, including the environmental issues and the necessary pipelines?
Well, I really don't feel that Morton County has a lot of authority in any of this. This is all state and federal, outside of probably the new planner in planning the roads and access points and the development that way. But, you know, they're not going to be able to regulate the federal issues as far as pipelines and environmental. So I'm sure Morton County, with what small bit they're going to have, will be able to handle it quite well.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Ms. Velcome, next question starts with you. Recently, the Morton County Commission decided to stop outsourcing its personnel and human resource work. The county intends to hire its own personnel director. Is this the right choice for Morton County?
Believe it or not, I was at the meeting when they decided to go with the group that currently handles their human resources and payroll. And so I sat through all of those meetings and the agonizing decision that they made to eliminate that position in the first place. And I didn't agree with that then, and so I believe that they're doing the right thing now. I think that Morton County has enough employees that they absolutely need somebody to handle some of these very delicate situations, and there have been things that have happened that have not been handled, I believe. And so I really think that this is a good move on their part.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, the Morton County Commission decided to stop outsourcing its personnel and human resource work. The county intends to hire its own personnel director. Is this the right choice for Morton County?
Yes, I believe it is, but hopefully they follow the guidance and hire a local person from our community and not outside. I think that with this tight-knit community that we are in the county, that it would be nice to have somebody that knows our history and our culture and our people here, so I think it's a great choice.
Thank you. Mr. Strinden, is hiring our own personnel director the right choice for Morton County?
At this point in time, I feel that it is. The services that we got from Avitas Group over the years that we had them were, I think, for the most part, very good. However, Avitas was providing us with basically part-time human resources assistant. And with 155 employees, we felt that it was really necessary for us to look to a different avenue and bring on someone full-time in-house. As far as who we hire, whether they're from Mandan or Morton County or somewhere else, the main thing we have to be cognizant of is with the sensitivities these days on human resources issues, we have to make sure that they have the proper qualifications, experience, and education to be able to do the job.
Thank you. Candidates, thank you so much for being here tonight. You now each have 1 minute to provide a closing comment. Mr. Johnson, you're first.
Well, thank you again for inviting us. It's been a great evening. I again would like to have your vote on November 6th, and I appreciate being here. I am a fifth-generation county resident. I feel I have the experience and the background to do a good job for the community. I'm wise in finance and taxes and in saving people money and getting the biggest buck for your taxes, and want this to be a great place for many generations in my family to continue growing and living and enjoying the freedom that this county offers and the culture, and would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Strinden.
Thank you. Once again, thank you to the League of Women Voters. It has been an honor to serve the citizens of Morton County these past 4 years. This county is my home. I love this county, its terrain, its people, and I have had a tremendous experience these past 4 years. As I said earlier, it has been challenging, but it's also been one of the most gratifying experiences of my life. And I would ask the citizens of Morton County vote for me to give me another term on the Morton County Commission. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Velcome.
Well, believe it or not, I have a great deal of respect, more than I did before, as a newspaper reporter, for the people who are actually making these decisions. It's not been an easy thing for me to be on the other side of questions, but I have a great deal of interest in where this county is going. I believe in this county. I believe in these people. I love it here. I have great relationships with most of the department heads over at the county. I now have the flexibility and the time to actually serve, and so I just would appreciate if people give me a chance to do that. It has been 30 years since there's been a woman on this board, and I believe that I can bring a perhaps softer side to the goings-on and the workings of the county. And so thank you very much for the opportunity tonight. I really appreciate it, and this has been a very wonderful experience for me.
Thank you. And I wish to thank the Bismarck Tribune and Dakota Media Access and the volunteers from the League of Women Voters for organizing this forum. Thank you to the viewers at home and the audience members here tonight for taking the time to learn more about the candidates and these issues. This program will replay several times on Government Access Cable Channel 2 and will be available for online viewing at www.freetv.org in the days leading up to the November 6th election. Before we close this candidate forum, I want to remind you that voting in North Dakota is very simple, and you can find voting information at your county auditor's office and from the office of the North Dakota Secretary of State. Thank you all, and good night.
Oh my
If you enjoyed this program, would like to see it again, or send the link to your friends, it's available at freetv.org. www.bmda.org.